Welcome to the Glitter Boom Girls podcast. I'm Robbie-Ann McPherson on the East Coast.
And I'm Amy Asbury on the West Coast.
And we are beyond thrilled because back with us today is our favorite guest. One of our favorite people, period, but our favorite guest, Mr. David Yontef, behind the velvet rope. David!
Whoop, whoop.
I mean, favorite guest, but aren't I your only guest?
Well,
Did he have to go there, Rob?
But that's
Did he
by
have to say
choice. Yeah, no, that's by choice.
I'll still take it. Listen, favorite anything is a good thing, right?
Right? And you know what?
I'll take it.
We don't need any other guests. That's kind of my point. Like, you're it.
Yes.
I love it. I am happy to be back. What is going on with you guys today?
Well, I'll set the scene here because we are an audio podcast. But Ames got her Cinderella, Disney fairy tale, Paris, whatever. What's the theme of your background, Ames?
My theme, I don't know. They were just things that made me in a good mood. So I've got palm trees. I like the Mary Blair Peter Pan color scheme, which is dark blues, light blues, purples, lavenders, and like the tad of pink.
Gotcha. That's exactly what we're looking at. And what are those, donuts?
Donuts.
Yeah.
Hold on. I got Cinderella. Are they donuts?
They look like donut holes.
Peonies.
Which
I
makes
got
me
flowers.
Oh, no. Okay, the flowers. They look like donuts from here, and that makes me want a donut.
If they were pale pink, I would have put donuts, but no, I think they're just peonies. I think they're just flowers.
Okay.
But yeah, just those color schemes just
They look
calm.
They look like macaroons almost, or like flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're flowers.
Okay.
Wrapped in like a nice
Or can't look like olive.
And David is handsome as ever. Now,
They kind of look like all of the above.
Oh, yeah. So wait,
What did
today's sweater?
No, it's like
today's sweater is by whom?
This is not a sweater. This is not a chunky sweater.
This is right. This is a like a thermal pullover. Like it's Sunday, and I just
Don't they
rolled
call it
out
a
of bed.
Henley? Isn't it a Henley?
I've never heard that term in my life.
I think
Henleys.
Henleys have buttons. Anyway,
Oh, they do?
okay. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
go on.
I was
Yeah,
all
this is
digressing.
like a thermal, like what you would wear to bed. You could see I've dressed up for you today.
Well, you're rocking it. So,
Thank you.
one of our favorite things. So we'll dispense with all of the atmosphere and just jump right in here. So one of the things that I just admire and love about you is that you have encountered, whether in person, interviewed on podcast, gone to like conventions or tours, whatever it is, you have encountered, yes, exactly, South Fork. You've encountered so many of the icon celebrities of the 70s and 80s. And, Amy and I are all about 70s and 80s nostalgia. So if you don't mind for a little bit here, can we pick your brain about some of these people?
Well, you could. I can tell you what they were like.
I love it.
During the 5 to 10 minutes that I've met them, but some I've met more than others, but you can pick my brain about any of them.
All right. So I want to start out first with the bad news. So in your mind, if I say, and keeping in 70s, 80s, whatever, who was like the biggest disappointment?
I mean, I've met so many people. My mind turns to music more than TV or movies.
That's okay.
Although I'm sure there's disappointments there too, but biggest disappointment, I think maybe Cyndi Lauper.
Really? Oh, my heart is broken.
I feel like if I didn't say this here, I was just saying this somewhere recently. Yeah, she's not overly lovely.
She's not warm.
No, and you know what? So, I think it's a disappointment because, like, you would think she would be, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah,
she's
her
just
personality,
very into the job. Like, so much so that, like, if people scream out, like, during the concert, I love you, I love you. I've been to first of all, I've never been to a Cyndi Lauper concert where she doesn't stop the show at least once and tell, like, the house music, like turn it up, turn it down, like what is going on? Or she'll say something to the band, but it's usually the house. It's more like, can I get some bass in here? Or just like it's
like audio problems?
Yeah, but I mean, no one would ever know.
So she doesn't like roll with it. She's a perfectionist and it has to be right for her to perform.
Yeah.
Like. At the expense of the person
watching. Yeah.
Yeah, and like no one gets that, but then like there are times too where people will yell out, I love you," because you know, like that's what people do at concerts.
Yeah.
And numerous concerts, she has stopped and had the discussion and been like, listen, you know, and listen, I get her point, but she's like, you know, listen, you don't love me. Like you don't know me.
Yeah.
And she's like, if you knew me, you probably wouldn't love me. I'm not so great. You know, you love my music. And for that, I'm grateful. And you like these songs and you like my artistry, but you don't love me.
Okay. No. Wait, I gotta.
That's her thing.
I gotta footnote this or throw a flag on the play, because if someone were to, in a concert setting where she's on stage and maybe she's like in the middle, I imagine this happens during the quiet songs, you know, like Time After Time or the True Colors, or, you know, where there's like a quiet moment and people are like, I love you. Okay, that is annoying. However, in a concert setting, that person, they're not exactly saying, I love you, Cyndi Lauper, the person, and I think I know. I mean, they're at a concert and they're screaming, hey, I love you. They're fans. Now, if she were, let's say she were, you know, at a book signing or I don't know, some signing, and she was sitting in a chair and this person came up and gave her roses and said, I love you. I want to marry you. Then I think it's appropriate to say, you know what? You don't love me. You don't know me. But in a concert setting, like, come on, girl. I mean, how much money did they pay to sit in that seat? And they, you know, it just seems a little overkill to me for her to give that lecture from the stage.
I mean, kind of, right?
Yeah. And I say that with all due respect to her. She's an incredibly talented musician, and I love her catalog. And her whole brand is really cool, but I just think that's a little heavy-handed. So I'm disappointed. I share that.
I'm not such a fan of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you wonder when somebody is an icon, and this is kind of interesting, somebody becomes an icon and they're not perfect with dealing with the public. They're really good in the booth. They're really good at writing the song or performing in a video in 1984 where they're really wacky and fun. And you fall in love with that and the white sunglasses and the tools.
Right. Then you know what? Don't go on tour. Don't go on tour and don't charge people, you know, $100+ a ticket and blah, blah, blah. Like that's where I have difficulty. Now, if she's in Whole Foods or something and somebody runs up to her and that I get, because that's not, you know, that's not her professional life. That's her being a private citizen. But I have a real hard time when people who are artists and they depend on the money. I mean, all those people in that house, including you or, you know, anybody else that paid, or maybe you didn't pay for a ticket, I don't know. But whoever paid for a ticket, I mean, honey, they're paying your bills. So
be a good sport.
Yeah, show a little respect to your fans.
Well, yeah, and I've also done like the meet and greet where I've met her, and like I've been in a line where, mind you, so there's nobody in that line other than, you know, like a friend or family or someone special that hasn't paid for the meet and greet.
And they're very expensive.
They're expensive.
Hundreds of dollars.
In where she's, you know, say there's a line of like 50, on like the third person, she'll stop and say to her people, like, can we hurry this up? Like, meaning like, you know, these first 3 people spent too much time and you need to speed this line up.
Yeah,
like,
see, again.
You know, because I've seen that because I've been like the next person or whatever. So it's not like, I mean, I was like the next one. So I saw it, like I heard it. It wasn't like in my imagination.
Yeah, and that, you know, once again, then don't do the meet and greets, you know, but they do them. They want the money. So I take issue with that. I take issue with when you are a performer and you are performing and the fans are doing what they're supposed to do. which is cheer you on. Don't run up on stage, don't throw things. There are responsibilities we all have as humans, but that is just, I don't know, maybe not tour, maybe just make records.
But is it up to that artist? Did they sign a contract where, I mean, do you wonder if some of these people are kind of low key angry because they're still doing the stuff they did back in the 80s, and are they secretly a little bit bitter that maybe they signed some kind of a contract and now they've got to go do it all, and they're kind of mad that they haven't done something else? Do you wonder if that's a part of the bitterness?
What do you think, David? You think that's her case?
I mean, but that's so many people. Well, I mean, like in Cyndi's case, like she did do some, this whole Kinky Boots has given her a new life. Like she was like a Broadway composer now. Like she's working on a new, I forgot what it is. I think it's Working Girl, that Melanie Griffith movie. Remember that?
Okay.
It's the best.
I think that, I could be wrong. She's definitely working on something. I don't know. I can't remember the movie. I think it's that. It's coming to Broadway, although now with COVID, that's another story. But she was working, I think, with Harvey Fierstein on that with the music. So I think you make a lot of money. Like, I think she made a lot of money from Kinky Boots.
Yeah, if you wrote music,
a whole nother,
for sure.
So she has a whole nother career now.
Yeah, because
you write music for Kinky Boots and you don't ever have to do anything. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy to write all that music. I'm just saying, like, you don't have to get up on stage now every night or tour.
Right.
So maybe cut that out if you're so unhappy with it.
Now she's on like her next Broadway musical, barring COVID. That's not a bad way to reinvent yourself.
Yeah, which 60. Is that. See, and that to me is testimonial to the breadth of her talent, right? I mean, it's not like she wrote one song and couldn't do another. She's got basically a bottomless pit of musical talent and extraordinary ability to be creative. And so maybe that's kind of where she went with all this, is maybe she realized, what, I don't like performing. I don't like, shaking hands and doing the grip and grin with all these people. So I'm just going to kind of go behind the scenes, and the royalties work differently with musicals than they do with record sales. So I think you're right, David. I think she made a heck of a lot of money, and maybe that's, maybe she found a new, a way where she's more comfortable. Because some people are shy too. Some people are just so uncomfortable in the public eye.
I picture Prince being the type who was really into the writing and the being alone and figuring out these harmonies and these melodies.
Yeah.
And maybe being very, very aware of his stage show and having it be a certain way, but as far as people not being able to control their reactions to him, I picture him maybe being somebody who's not a roll with it. Hey guys, like David Lee Roth, if we're thinking of 80s, was more of a like, hey, I love the crowd. I want to do my high kicks.
You too.
Yeah, but
have you ever met Prince? David, have you ever met Prince?
No, I've been to Paisley Park. I've met like Sheila E.
Okay.
I've met Morris Day, who wasn't such a lovely person.
Tell us about Paisley Park. So you walk in the door and you see what?
Well, I mean, so first of all, like, you're on a tour because you can't just roam it, but I went to Celebration. You know how they have Celebration every year, the Prince thing? It's like 3 days, and it's, I mean, listen, so you walk in and you see right away, like the huge symbol, the Prince symbol.
The symbol.
Yeah, the symbol.
I mean, listen, can you go upstairs? No, like you can't. There's parts you can't go to. But the kitchen is very small. Like, this is where Prince lived. So, like, his kitchen was really small. Yeah, you get to see the kitchen.
Is it like a galley kitchen?
It's like not even a kitchen. It's like a little thing.
Like in a studio or
Prince doesn't appear to be somebody eating large.
And also
not appear to be eating large portions of Thanksgiving turkey and cold cuts.
I asked, too, like, is this now a museum? Like, is what we're seeing here for the public? Because, and they say this is how he actually lived on that first floor. Like, there's rooms, like there's a Purple Rain room, there's a controversy room, there's an Around the World in a Day room.
Stop it.
So it's almost like each room is like a shrine to an error. Wow. Which, you know, each room has the album blown up. And then I'm trying to think of like the looks.
Yeah, like what kind of decor?
Like, I could figure out Around the World in a Day what that would look like,
right,
and Purple Rain
and like
but not controversy.
Well, that's true. Now, I mean, I can't really remember.
You're like, what was it? Well, it was crazy.
By the way, the Purple Rain room is the biggest, and it has the Purple Rain motorcycle in it, and everything.
Take me with you.
I don't know what I can't remember what the controversy room looked like now that you say that.
So was it like dark and velvet drapes and all that, or was it like Art Deco or?
No, but it was like velvet.
Under the Cherry Moon room?
Not that I remember.
That would have been cute.
But no, it wasn't dark with velvet drapes. It was the opposite. It was like Willy Wonka colors.
Oh, wow.
Colors, not just purple. And then, you know, there's the huge ballroom where like real concerts happened and where he played.
Yeah. And was everything like top notch and beautiful, or was it kind of slapped together, or?
Top notch and beautiful, but eclectic. Like if you want like a hot minimalist decor, that wasn't this.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I'm so curious. I mean, I have toured Graceland before, and it is so weird to be in a place where an artist of that caliber, and I'd put Prince and Elvis, you know, together. I mean, they were both just extraordinary. But I remember like traipsing through the Jungle Room, you know, and just thinking, oh my God, like he lived here, you know. So I'm so curious about how Prince lived, because he was so eccentric and just so, I don't want to say weird because that's not the right word, but he was so creative and just so unique. So I picture his house being that way. And what was Sheila E. like?
It was, she's, you know, I feel like they're all kind of trained by Prince, you know, so like, when I met Morris Day, I mean, this wasn't like 30 years ago. It was like, I don't know, 3 years ago. And so when that happened, it's like, I mean, he acted like he was Prince himself. Like he had a bodyguard with him. Like this was like on the street.
Sweetie.
Right. Like he was performing. I mean, they were performing Morris Day in the time. Mm-hmm. But like, I mean, it was outside the venue and there was nobody there. And I was like, can I have a picture? And the bodyguard, like, kind of was like, back up, sir. Like, as if I'm so... And it's just like, are you kidding me? Like, it's Morris Day. And, I mean, literally, it was just me. And
but that's part of Morris Day, like his arrogance.
Yeah.
That's so him, though. For everybody. It's only for the sexy people.
I was like, okay, like, this is... I don't know, like this is such a, I don't know.
That's on brand. I think that's on brand for Morris Day. I expect that of Morris Day, his arrogance and his, you know, he needed his mirror immediately.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Hair.
There's all of that, but I was just like, God, like, I don't know, like you're not on the stage. So like, right. I can't, like, I'm not going to tell everyone who's coming to the show tonight. Like, I just wanted this.
Yeah, you just wanted a picture. Like,
yeah.
It's just a picture, man. I'm not borrowing $1,000.
Yeah.
You should have held up a mirror for him. That would have worked.
Weird. Yeah, it was weird.
Okay, so on the flip side, who comes to mind?
And by the way, I mean, sorry. I shouldn't shock you, like Belinda Carlisle, Debbie Harry. I mean, they're not overly engaging to their fans.
Yeah, that I can understand. I mean, knowing a little bit about them and
why do you say that?
Oh, why do I say it?
No, Rob.
Oh,
what do you know about these ladies that would make you think they were not?
Just stuff I've read, stuff I've heard. Not that I've heard a little bit about each one of them from people who have worked with them, and I have heard nothing bad about them. I will say that, but it's just some people are just not that effusive, you know. And I have seen Debbie Harry in concert, and in concert she is on fire. Like, she is fantastic. She, you know, gives it all. She receives it all. Like, she is just, Blondie is they're amazing to see in concert. So I have I ever seen Belinda Carlisle? I feel like I haven't.
Or like the Go-Go's.
Yeah, like so were you surprised by that, David? Like, did you know, were they off-brand, let's say, or it was just kind of...
No, I think it's on brand for both.
Yeah.
In different ways.
Yeah. So when I say who is the best surprise, like somebody that you maybe thought would be not so friendly and they just turned out to just make you feel like $1 million as a fan, who comes to mind?
Well, I'm trying to think of someone you wouldn't think would be nice. You know, well, is this 80s really? Not really. But you know who's pretty nice is Shannon Doherty from 90210. But now we're talking 90s.
Well, I think she was
a
on
great surprise.
Little House on the Prairie.
That's a surprise, right?
Yeah, that is a surprise.
I like that.
Yeah, I think she's, you know, also a perfectionist with people that are her colleagues. But which I'm okay with that. She gets that, like, you as a fan are not the problem of what's going on set, or the difficulty with the work, or the fact that I'm fighting with co-stars. It's like, you as a fan are just here to give me adoration, so why am I taking it all out on you? That's the impression I get.
Right.
But there's someone that you would think would not be nice.
Yeah, and that is, to me, that's just the mark of a professional, right? Like, she understands that when you are in in this business, you depend on the fans, right, to maintain your popularity.
You would think so, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, on that same note, I mean, again, this is kind of 80s, kind of 90s, but like Rose McGowan, with all that she's gone through, like, I think she has an axe to grind with the world. I think she has an axe to grind with Hollywood. She's sitting there exposing them all. But yeah, like, I expected her to be like completely like, I'm not taking a picture. Like, you know, I've got bigger issues in life. And she's like, okay, sweetie. Like, she gets nice. That, like, you just want a picture, and that has nothing to do with the fact that she's taking on Hollywood and exposing them for the business that they are.
Right.
But someone like cool. That too, like, I was like, I might get, like, I literally thought I would be screamed at by Rose McGowan for asking for a picture, and it was the opposite. So there's two examples that
those are two great examples,
right,
and
that just to the top of my head.
The cast of Charmed is really 2 for 3. Oh no, didn't Rose come in and replace Shannon? Actually, I think.
Yes.
On the show.
And like, so I've met Holly Marie and I've met Alyssa. Holly Marie, I think, in a way, is the most standoffish, which you wouldn't expect, but it's not. I just get the impression that she's a little kooky and strange, and it's not from evilness.
Ah, okay. Yeah, she just eccentric.
I just think she's
quirky. I call those people quirky.
Yeah. But she, believe it or not, and you would think she would be the nicest, most embracing of them all, she's a little weird. But even like, you know, okay, like, yeah, like, she's just a little socially awkward, but then it comes across as almost like rude, like not warm and fuzzy. Alyssa's pretty nice.
Yeah, she knows the drill.
I would say, yeah. I mean, I would say out of all of them, I feel like Shannon and Rose are the most authentically nice, and Alyssa is nice, but it's more of a business, and she gets it. Like you said, it's like, let me put this on for everybody.
Right. I
think Alyssa is just going to be done with the whole damn thing and go into politics. That's really what I think.
Could be. Well,
because she's
the next AOC.
She could be Seriously. The next Fred Grandy.
AOM.
Yeah. So let's shift topics here to your podcast, Behind the Velvet Rope.
Let's do it.
And which I can't believe anybody listening to us hasn't heard it. So you interview everyone from drag queens to Real Housewives.
To Lisa Barlow, who I just heard.
Yeah.
You like the Lisa Barlow, right?
That one made me laugh. That was so good.
I mean, I love me some Lisa Barlow. You know, listen, it's really hard because so there's someone like Lisa Barlow who I interview from Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And then, I mean, I do like her. I do. I don't like everybody I interview. No, I actually really like her. And we text and stuff. And then I interview Meredith and Brooks, and that's fine because they're like, you know, Lisa and Meredith are really good friends, and I love Meredith. You know, but Lisa and Whitney hate each other-ish.
Oh.
And that's not necessarily just on air.
Oh.
It's so
a little bit of tea.
Like,
okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think they like each other at all. So then it's like I get, you know, because it's all really within like 3 weeks of each other. Like Lisa's like, you know, by the way, people are still saying how great I was on your podcast and this and that. And I was like,
that's very on brand.
Well, all of this is very authentic and legitimate. And then I'm like, you know, I really enjoyed chatting with you. And like, you know, I think we're very similar because I do see similarities between me and Lisa Barlow. Like I work all the time. She works all the time. I don't know. I'm like that A type personality. But then, you know, here I am. And the next thing I know, and like somebody's calling me and like Whitney wants to come on my podcast. And this is all within like days. And it's like, I literally sit there and I grapple with like, I mean, first of all, I don't grapple with whether she's going to come on. There's no question. Like business comes first.
Sure.
But then Whitney comes on and then she trashes Lisa the whole time. And Whitney, I think personally, I think it was a strategic move. I mean, I'm not saying I'm all that, but like Lisa came on, then Meredith. And like when Whitney came on, like that was it. Like it was the end of Salt Lake. Like, I'm not going to be interviewing Salt Lake people now. The season's over. I mean, if somebody called me, I would certainly interview them. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I went after them hard. And I just think Whitney's timing was very like, it was the week of the final 3-part reunion. So whatever Lisa said on my podcast and whatever Meredith said, in a way, Whitney was getting the last word because that was it for this podcast. Not the last word in life, but for this podcast.
Oh boy.
And so then she comes on and she did say all sorts of things about Lisa, you know, and it is, I mean, at times I was like, oh Jesus, like it was awkward for me because I was like, I'm not going to agree, but that's, I mean, I never agree. It's not really my job to agree. But then literally like that same week was when Lisa was like, you know, I want to let you know, it's really means a lot to me that you've been very loyal. This is all
they're like sending you flowers.
And I'm just like, and I literally grappled with like, do I tell Whitney Tuesday night that the next 2 days is a 2-part extravaganza with Whitney? And I never did. I'm like, it's not really my job to do that. I feel like the one time I did that, it kind of backfired, I feel. And again, like this makes me sound really self-important. A lot of this could just be in my head, honestly. But I don't know. I don't know. So
I think there's strategy involved from both of those women. And if they have any kind of PR teams, you know, I don't see Whitney as a strategist, but she could be. This could be a great.
That's the thing, right? She could be. And like,
she if you ask, be. And if so, more power to her.
She is like so. But I don't know. But I feel like I don't know. It's like I only feel that way with Housewives. It's really weird. I feel like I interview a lot of people from The Bachelor. I mean, now we're talking like a bunch of people that have slept together. Like if there should be animosity, it should be between all of them. And they're the nicest people. There's no, you interviewed this. It doesn't work that way. It's really weird. Do
you feel like you're at school? Like, did this happen to you in high school?
I feel like I'm at school only when it comes to Housewives. But I mean, I will
Right.
never not, like I would never, there was never a question in my mind that I would say no to interviewing Whitney because of Lisa. Like that would never happen.
Well, this is so school with the popular girls. Like, you went to the mall with her. Well, guess what? I need to go to the mall this weekend. You want to come with me? Let's go to the shoe store. You know, this is very 8th grade 101. She went.
I'm telling you, it's only Housewives. It's just Housewives. That's it.
So Housewives they all want to sit at your lunch table.
They want to sit at his lunch table.
Not even mine, but they really take it like personally and off the show. But that's an issue, which I mean, I haven't heard from Lisa since then, but I wasn't like we were, I mean, she's busy filming season 2. And so it's probably all in my head, but there is that type of thing where it's like, you just told me how thankful you were for my loyalty. Ooh. It's such a, listen, it's such a mind fuck. Because then I'm like, are you saying this to me because you know that Whitney's good that I interviewed Whitney 3 days ago?
Yeah, she's like, right, David?
I
take it, Amy, that you're not a fan of Lisa Barlow. I'm taking it.
I'm taking it as anybody who says anything about your loyalty right before their rival comes to you is being strategic. You don't mention loyalty. You don't have to.
Right. And then I'm just like,
mind somebody.
Right. And then I'm like, now you're playing me. And so I'm just going to do what's best for I mean, that really is what I do. I mean, it's whatever is best for the fans of the show is who I will interview.
Yeah. And that's who you're responsible to, right? Yeah. It's your gig. And I do want to amend one of your statements that you said a few minutes ago, which is that you were maybe not all that. And I want to issue a complete and utter rebuttal, and I think you are all
nice
that.
Of you. Well, thank you.
Well, because, and we said this last time you were on our show, which is you have a great talent for interviewing, and not everybody can do it. It's not just asking questions; it's also listening, and it's also not being afraid, like you've just said. Your allegiance and your focus is on your show and your listeners, right? And you know darn well your listeners want to hear Whitney's point of view on Lisa and, blah, blah, blah. So you're not afraid to go there. And believe me, there's a lot of people. I don't know how I'd do in that scenario, because I used to watch the Housewives, all of them except Miami. And I don't know, the last year or so, I just kind of fatigued on it. And there's probably a few different reasons for that. But I don't know what I would do. I might not have the guts to be like, yeah, Whitney, I'm totally loyal. And then, tomorrow I'm interviewing Lisa. Or wait, was it reverse?
But
Lisa was first,
I think
right?
A good way to say it is, people say blah, blah, blah. What do you say to that? Because it's not really you are saying
That's
it.
That's a journalist.
What do you say to those people who think that,
Yeah.
Well, it's very weird, because then I do have to sit there and I really go out of my way, not even just with these two, to not comment when someone says something. I mean, I also don't think it's my job to comment. But when someone's like, because Whitney did trash Lisa the whole time. But even if it wasn't this situation, it's really not my job to have an opinion. It's not. It's about you to say your truth and to let everyone hear that. And it's not really my opinion.
Yeah.
So even if it wasn't this way, I don't make comments really. But even same with The Bachelor, I've had a lot of people coming up. I just had somebody on. I mean, people are, a lot of, because I'm asking about everything going on. Like Chris Harrison just stepped aside on The Bachelor. So that's something we talk about. So even that though, people are giving their opinions, and even that I won't comment on. Are
you nervous about the language on that? There's certain things that need to be said when it's the thing with Chris Harrison. Are you nervous about the language, how you are asking these questions?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, but I feel in today's day and age, regardless of what you say, nobody's come after me, but it's more the comments. I'll ask a question, and so Like, for instance, I just had Kendall Long on. She's from The Bachelor. She's like some in Bachelor Nation, you know, and she said, look, in no, you know, uncertain terms, Chris Harrison should step aside, and this is unacceptable with Rachel. So she said her story, her opinion. I'm not saying that's wrong, but there are two sides to everything. So then her episode comes out, and then a lot of people come for her of like, Chris did nothing wrong, and, you know, this cancel culture has gone too far. So it's like, there's people on both sides. It's not my job to have an opinion.
You just present the sides and let other people. Yeah.
Right. So
I understand that.
I'm not so worried about the questions and the way I ask them. I am, but I think I'm good at it more or less. It's just more when someone is commenting, I don't really want to say like, oh, absolutely. I don't say things like that. It's not like I'm afraid of the human society.
Well, you're being impartial, as you should.
It's not my job. It's not my job. So, yes. And so, I mean, like, it's just more like, but yes, people, no one has really come and tried to cancel me once. Maybe somebody did about something. I'm trying to think what it was about.
Was it an organization or a particular?
No, I forgot. Somebody was fired from Bravo, and I forgot who. There's
so many now,
right? And I forgot who was fired, or we're talking about someone kind of being fired, and I said, well, a lot of people have been fired for a lot less. And then we went on, and that was it. It had nothing to do with anything, and it was a housewife, and somebody came for me and said, when you say people are fired for less, are you implying like Stassi and Kristen, who I don't know if you're up on all that, they were fired. Right. So and then I lost my shit on this person. I was like, wait, like I make this blanket statement because there's been, like you said, hundreds of thousands of people that have been fired from Bravo, and you are somehow taking my people have been fired for less. And she was implying, are you saying Stassi and Kristen and what they did to, and I was like, no, actually,
no, sweetie.
Never crossed my mind. So it's just, you know, it's weird. That was the only time, and it was shut right down. I was like, how do you get that from this? And really, here's who I kind of was thinking of, and has nothing to do with this. And that, but you know, that's a situation where like people could come for you.
Yeah, and as far as interviewing, like actual. I mean, not that Bravo celebrities aren't actual TV stars, but as far as interviewing, like, say, actors and actresses who have studied their craft and are on scripted TV and that kind of thing, how about that group? Like, you know, give me a diva that you interviewed who maybe while you were interviewing them, even though you're totally professional, inside you were like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm interviewing so-and-so.
What, because they were rude or because they were boring or?
No, because it was just like somebody so iconic and great or that you were a fan of.
Well, you know, it's so like when you like the first time I interviewed Perez Hilton, I was like, oh my God, now I've interviewed him 4 times and I'm like, oh, cool, it's Perez. For me, like Melissa Rivers was a big one just because, I mean, of Joan Rivers.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
And it's Melissa Rivers. Like, she wasn't promoting. It's a long story. Like, I have a friend who's really good friends with her. It was just through a mutual friend who was like, that's why she did it. You know, there was nothing to promote. I mean, she has about $150 million. She doesn't need to advertise anything. And it was just like Melissa Rivers, like in her closet, like dressed to the nines, just like on a, you know, it like open and talking about her mother. And it actually got viral press because I asked her about like, what would Joan say about like having to wear a mask? I mean, I knew.
Question.
I mean, that's the thing. This is how I get press. Like, I know, like, no matter what you say to that question, that could be something that goes viral in the press, depending upon how you answer it. But you could almost say 100 things and this will be picked up by the press.
You know your sound bites. You're like, sound bite.
Right, because it's like Joan Rivers. It's fashion police, like it ties in. It's not just like anyone. And she said, are you kidding me? She's like, my mother would love it. Are you kidding me? It hides all the surgery. She doesn't have to worry anymore about it. And I was like, as soon as she said it, I was like, oh no, that's it. And it literally went all over the world in like every paper.
Oh.
I mean, she could have said different things, but like, I was like, so she was a good one. I mean, coming up this week on my show, I have to say, for me, I was ecstatic. It's going to be 2 parts. The first part is out this week. The one, the only, Miss Janice Dickinson.
Stop! OMG, the first supermodel. The original supermodel.
Which, again, same thing. I was on someone else's podcast. Somehow her name came up. They were like, you want Janice? We can get you Janice. I'm like, what? One of these 2 guys happens to be like lifelong best friends with Jan. That's the only reason she did it. But I mean, they were on it too because they wanted to promote their podcast. I'm like, listen, I'm not an asshole. Like, you're going to deliver her on a silver platter. Yeah, you can come on the episode. It could be all 3 of you. That's fine. I mean, I got some business with Janice. I'll include you guys too. But
sure.
It's Janice. So that just for me was like, I don't even care if anyone listens. This is just totally self-indulgent. It's Janice fucking Dickinson. That was a big one for me.
I read all of her books and they were so funny.
And she doesn't care. She says what's on her mind.
Doesn't care.
Like, that was a big deal.
And so what can you give us a hint about what to look forward to?
That's not even the 80s icon that I have coming up.
Yeah, okay. So let me set this up. Okay. So
another is just again handed to me like, do you want this person? And I'm like, okay, but go on.
So, okay, last week we were supposed to record with David, but we had some technical difficulties, so we had to schedule it for a week later, which is where we are today. And David was telling me that he was going to interview this 80s icon, but he wouldn't let me know who it was. So I was like, okay, well, give me a hint. So he said it was TV. And so I come up with this, what I thought was a great guess, because he told me that, he told me an age range, right? And so I was like, oh, okay. So I started thinking, and I'm like, oh my God, is it Dixie Carter? And
good. A guess. Is she even? I didn't. She's alive.
She's been gone. R.I.P. since 2010. And so I was like, first of all, oh my God, my apologies to Dixie Carter. And I mean, hey, she was a legend. And I will tell you, I saw her cabaret show some 25 years ago at the Carlisle Hotel, and she was phenomenal. So props to her. However, I was unaware or forgot that she had left this world. So now here we are. I'm dying to know who this person is that you got. Can you tell us?
Okay, it's not going to be out for a while. So this is like breaking the news because like it's going to be weeks before this comes out. I'll give you a hint.
Oh yeah, let us guess.
So, right. Okay, so Dixie Carter, right. So I gave you the age range, right?
Yeah.
I said like older. Nighttime soap.
Nighttime soap.
Falcon Crest Dynasty Dallas.
Is it
Dallas is his favorite.
Is it Joan Collins?
No, those are definitely 3 nighttime soaps. Yeah.
Okay, so is it Dynasty?
No.
Is it
Dallas?
No.
Is it Falcon Crest?
No.
Oh, what's the other one?
Knots Landing.
Yes.
Angela? I know she's not with us.
Is it Michelle Lee?
No.
Donna Mills?
Yes.
Stop!
It's Donna Mills.
Donna effing Mills. I can't even. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I am all unsettled. I am totally unsettled.
So everyone listening, if you like the 80s, we have a 2-part in the future.
It's Abby.
With Donna Mills and the 2-part with Janice Dickinson. Like if that's not enough for these 80s listeners of yours and Melissa Rivers, but it's Donna Mills. Like, and she could not have been nicer. Like I'm
so happy
scheduling it, my friend put me in touch with her and she got like, I was the one that was taking days to get back to her because I was busy. She would get right back to me. I'm like, Donna Mills has some time on her hands, I think, because she was like, I mean, granted,
Donna Mills is a
professional. I mean, yeah, and it helped that we had like, it was a mutual friend that I'm sure was like, this guy's great. I mean, it's someone who was on my podcast. He's like an
Did
actor.
she have iconic eyeshadow just for old time's sake?
she kind of looked the part.
Oh, I love it.
Did
Of
she have
course she
tease
did.
in the hair also?
She had the blonde hair. I mean, listen, she's 81, so she was in the house. Like, I checked out the back, the room she was in. I mean, she has, well, first of all, I was just shocked at her. I mean, this is such a stereotype, but like shocked at her, like ease to like email me back right away. There was no questions about Zoom. Also, not for nothing, I expected her when I said, I use the audio, I use clips of the video, but this is video. Don't get me wrong. Donna Mills could say, that's great. We're not doing video, sweetheart. And the interview still would have gone on. I was like 99% sure she was going to be like, we are not doing video. Never said that. She was on video. Just again, because I figured, like I was actually trying to get Candy Spelling on, and it was happening. We were negotiating, and then it never happened. And I just got the impression that her people were like, I don't know. I got the impression something's not going well, like either with her looks, but then just say to me, we can't do video. And I mean, I'm okay with that. But so I expected Donna Mills to be like, oh, we'll talk, but I'm not coming on your video. And she came on the video. Because listen, you don't know what people look like during COVID. And I mean, again, you're 81. Like, I'm not age shaming. It's just we're all going to fall apart at 81 compared to how we are now. Not that that's old, but she was put together. Like, I was like, this is just,
that is
and
everything
it's not,
I expect of her.
Like, I go in for the kill, on a lot of my interviews, but like with her, I mean, I wasn't gonna attack an 81-year-old woman, and it wasn't really that type of interview. There was no real salacious, like, we don't need to talk about something from 30 years ago. It was really just like an anthology of her career. Like, let's start at the beginning, and how'd you get this? And I mean, you have two best friends out from life now, Joan Van Ark and Michelle Lee. And I mean, we went over it all, and like your decision to quit the show. And just, I like talking about the bigger issues, just of like, you played against type at that point, and how fun was Abby, and, how far has Hollywood come with roles for women, and let's talk about Me Too. I mean, we covered it all, the Me Too movement, and just what do you think of reality TV, and like what TV has become. I wanted a real, like, let's talk about the past, but I want current views of Donna Mills's views of the world of entertainment now. She knew a lot of like what was going on, and she did listen. She threw some, when she talked by the end, I was like, she's not bitchy, but I think at 81 you just say whatever. She threw shade at a couple of people and things.
I can't wait to hear this. I will say nothing you are describing surprises me or my impression, right, Aim? Like
it's not at all. Like, it makes sense. And I picture young David with his grandmother watching this, Knots Landing, on the couch, and all the primetime soaps, and how exciting that must have been.
Yeah.
It was, listen, I mean, Linda Gray would be my ultimate from that genre, but I am certainly not trying. And you know what it is? It's like, then when you pitch more people, now I can say to Michelle Lee or Joan Van Ark, like, hey, I've had Donna Mills. Like, It really is how it works. It's not guaranteed, but like a name certainly doesn't hurt.
Sure. But I follow her on Instagram, Donna Mills, and her Instagram is so adorable, and you can just sort of tell that she's like with it. She's hip. She's not someone that sort of stopped living when she was no longer like a TV star, which I think a lot of TV stars have trouble when they're no longer in the brightest limelight. They sort of fade, and they either get bitter or they, who knows. But she just seems to be embracing life and being her best self and living her best life. And everything you said like reinforces that. I can't wait to hear this.
And like, I ask questions of like, how do you want to be remembered? Like, we went there, but can
you say what she said, or if you don't want to, I get it. Okay.
But listen, I mean, I ask a lot of people that. It's not just because of her age, but yeah. And listen, the one thing I can say, and this is not a knock, it's just being a professional. Listen, I always say this, like, if I sat in the middle of nowhere and didn't have a podcast, and just, again, I'm not criticizing anyone. Like, I believe that the more you just live life and live a fast-paced life, stuff comes in and stuff goes out. Like I can't remember things in life. If you said something to me, I would say, "Oh my God, now I remember." Like you asked me the controversy room. I'm like, I don't know. It's really actually sad, but I really feel because I have days where I'm like, "Oh my God, do I have early Alzheimer's?" And I'm not making fun. I truly have this thought, or like, God, did I just drink so much vodka in my life that this is what's happening?
Well, you remembered where you got your chunky sweater, and you
Yeah,
remembered
and
in detail, so you do not have Alzheimer's.
right. So like I just think it's like things, but I couldn't tell you, you're like, how many Blondie concerts have you seen and where? I mean, I couldn't tell you. How
They
many
ran
go-go?
together.
Right, it all runs together. So things like that. So I'm not knocking her because I can't even remember, but it was so subtle, but she was looking at notes next to her, which is not anything.
Preparation. I think it's proactive.
It was
I
just
admire
certain
it.
things of like, but listen, I'm not saying were you on Knots Landing? It was just little things like I said, well, one of the people that was on Knots Landing who was for a minute and then got fired was Alec Baldwin. You know what I mean? So things like that she needed to just make, but it was so subtle. But I was like, I've been doing this for so long. I see you looking at.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't looking, it was just literally like, I just got the impression it was someone or her, like, you know, Alec Baldwin, and like, you know, just things that could come up. Like I brought up Nicolette Sheridan and just things like that.
Yeah, and
it's not. I'm not knocking her. It's just it was one of those like, oh, okay, there's things you know that you probably need just to jog your memory with.
I think I'm gonna just hazard a guess. You know, having worked in public relations on that side for a long time, it's really smart of her to have had some kind of notes and maybe even somebody sitting there with her to kind of Google something or pass her a note with a detail, because it's just those details, right? Like she, and again, this totally fits with my impression of her, that she's organized, that she's very smart. And, you know, you just don't get to maintain being Donna Mills for a lifetime without being smart and understanding preparation and having been around the block to do these interviews. So I'm not surprised that she had notes, because honestly, a few minutes ago, I couldn't remember if I'd seen Belinda Carlisle, right? And just like you said, David, it isn't a knock. I mean, if it were on TV, well, yeah, you don't want to sit there with a bunch of notes being interviewed on TV. But since she knew it was a podcast, etc., I've done that for many, many, many employers where I put together details and give them some talking points. They can do it on their own just fine. You know, they're smart, they can handle it. But it just helps to remember, oh, yeah, that was in 1985, not 1987. And, oh, yeah, that was, you know, so-and-so and not so-and-so. That, I'm not really surprised by that, you know, just kind of observing her. Now, you know, disclaimer, I don't know her. I don't know anything about her. I'm just going by what I see. And so that's not surprising. I feel like she probably was like, you know what? I better write down a few dates because I don't really remember all this stuff, you know?
Yeah, and I'm not knocking her. Listen, I was thrilled to be interviewing her, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I am super excited. I can't wait to hear it.
Cannot wait.
And when are we going to get the Linda Gray interview? Are you working on that?
I put it out to the universe. I mean, I have someone that helps me do some booking, and you know, she's not booked yet, but I said, like, here, we have Donna Mills' name, and let's contact her. And while you're contacting her, let's contact like Audrey Landers and Charlene Tilton and Michelle Lee and Joe. I'm like, right? Like, let's just.
Should I ask the magic 8 ball?
Sure.
I do. I'm going to ask.
Linda Gray would be amazing.
Will Linda Gray come on David Yontef's amazing podcast, Behind the Velvet Rope? Oh, it says reply hazy. Try again. Hang on. I'm going to ask it again. Okay. Let me ask it in a more clear way.
Please do.
Will Linda Gray agree to come on David's podcast. Oh, how weird. It says cannot predict now. Isn't that strange? All right, I'm going to put it down.
So maybe and maybe not.
No, I don't think that's a maybe not. I think that's just you know what? Let's not talk about it now because maybe there's a reason we're not supposed to know now. That's how I.
The universe is working on it. There's something crossing.
Yeah, because you know what? Maybe if the Magic 8 Ball said yes, maybe that would change something that you would do subconsciously.
Right. No,
right?
And I'm going out of my way to make it happen. So
I can't wait for that.
But I'm trying to think of any other 80s. I mean, Donna Mills was big, and Janice Dickinson for me is like everything.
That is, I mean, talk about a 70s and 80s icon. Like she spans both of those decades, right? Janice Dickinson, the first supermodel.
Yeah, and like I didn't really find out anything different about her, but it doesn't matter. I mean, she's Janice. She's somebody that I thought before the interview. I mean, her two best friends were right there with her, but I was like, this could go one way or another. You know what I mean? I expected her to be like, I'm not answering that. And like, but she answered, she played. I mean, I did have two non-mentionable talking points before by her team. She brought one of them up, but I didn't even follow up on it.
One has to be Sylvester Stallone.
No, that was okay.
No? What were the two?
Well, she didn't want to talk about Bill Cosby.
I
didn't even know about that.
She brought it up. Yeah, like I forgot, like she sued him. I think it's officially she sued him for rape or accused, but there was a whole, I might have to Google it. I didn't look into it but she mentioned it. I then, as a natural interviewer, would have asked 1,000 questions, but I feel like when she mentioned it, I almost could have kept going because she brought it up, and I was told if she brings it up, you can go there. But I just got the impression if I continued, I'd get a call after with 17 edit notes, and I was not interested in that. So we just moved. And listen, everything is out there. You can Google it. She wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah.
But she brought it up. But that was really, I'm trying to think what else we really covered. I mean, look, we went through it all. Supermodels of the 80s, how she started. I always like to bring it current because that's when things could go viral. Like no one's going to be writing about Janice Dickinson and, her feud with Linda Evangelista. But now I want you to comment on Kendall Jenner and Gigi Hadid. That's the stuff that people are going to be like, that care about. But I mean, I'm just curious too, like what the world's first supermodel thinks of like Gigi and Bella and Kendall. So we talk current day stuff. Then let's not forget, I mean, we talked to she was like, I could have stayed on. Then we talked all about the reality TV aspect of it, the Janice Dickinson modeling agency, which is one of the best shows that's ever existed.
So funny. So funny.
So I think she was just shocked at, I mean, listen, I'm prepared no matter what, but I think she was shocked that I had some deep cuts in there.
Yeah.
And like JP Calderon, who was on Survivor, came out on her show and she was like, oh my God, you're right. And I'm like, yeah, sweetie, like I know all about you.
You did your homework.
Of course, we then had to appeal to like the younger generation, like who thinks that she is a judge on America's Next Top Model. But yeah, we had to do that whole segment of Tyra and talk to me about Jay Manuel. And so it was just like we really went through all of Janice's like things. Now, granted, my friend is like, when you come to LA, like, well, you'll have hang with Janice. I'm like, okay, well, that's a good reason. She doesn't drink anymore. She's sober. So I'll have to.
I was going to say, what kind of a night would that be? Like, quote unquote.
I think
so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, she'll be sober though, but she talked about like how she was her drug problem back in the day and like Studio 54 and just, Janice. So, I mean, I really am thrilled to have Donna Mills, but like Janice to me was like you're just my type of person. But then granted, I also just had Isaac Mizrahi. He kind of is an 80s guy.
Yeah.
He was maybe not really, but I don't know. I was really excited about Isaac, and everyone's like, "Why? He's not that great."
That's major. That's major to me.
I thought it was major. I was like, I love Isaac.
Yeah, he was kind of a game changer, and he brought fashion down to like my level, where I could actually afford stuff, and I think for that, people kind of crucified him in the fashion industry, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because he dared to actually, care about customers like me, At least that's my take. Am I way off?
Yeah. No, that's true. And he's another one. He was promoting a bunch of like cabarets at Cafe Carlisle, all virtual. But it was one of those things where I had to talk mostly about that. And I'm like, okay, I do got some questions at the end. I mean, it's Isaac Mizrahi. And I really thought that it would be, because, you ask who was better than I thought. Right when we started talking, he was like, David, like, what does your last name mean? And we just bonded right away. And I thought that my extra questions would be like, sweetie, I mean, listen, I focused like 25 minutes on Cafe Carlisle, 20 minutes. I just thought I would get caught up at the knees when I had all these other questions.
Yeah.
Like best dress, worst dress. Talk to me about Madonna. Talk to me about, Sandra Bernhard. So he was game. He was way more game than I ever thought.
Oh, that's cool.
That's surprising.
Yeah, interesting. And so did you bring up Rinna, the other guest out there that you're dying to get on your show?
I brought up Rinna briefly, but he changed the subject.
Oh, in a weird way?
You know what it is? Isaac, I mean, I've seen him on Watch What Happens a lot. Like, Isaac, and I knew this beforehand, Isaac doesn't trash. Like, he'll never say worst dress. Like, Isaac, he did say stuff. It didn't get picked up by the media, but he's shockingly trashed Kim Kardashian, just in the sense that he was like, because I asked him too, what do you think of like people like the Kardashians? They're in the fashion business now.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't really have a problem with that. He just was like, the one who's a model, and I'm like, Kendall. He's like, Kendall. He's like, I understand her look. He's like, I don't understand a big fat fake ass. I mean, I'm not talking out of school. This is on the podcast. He's like, Cardi B and Kim with that fake ass. He's like, who likes that? It's just such a fake ass. He's like, I prefer like a stick like Kendall. I'm like, okay, these quotes could be so wrong to a lot of people in so many ways.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying any of them, anyone. I'm just paraphrasing, and it's on my podcast what Isaac said. But, nobody really found it that shocking. I was like, these are going to be some bad headlines for Isaac, but nothing happened.
Huh.
Well, lucky for him.
Yeah. I am surprised.
But that's what I mean, where I thought he would just be like 2 words and like he had to go. And he was willing to talk for a while.
Hey,
That's surprising.
Who have you interviewed that couldn't wait to get off and just be done with it?
Surprisingly, most people will stay on my show and they don't want to run off. I just recently had Luke Goldberson from Summer House. I don't know if you watch Summer House.
I haven't watched. I don't know who that is from the show.
That seems like a young person's thing that I don't know about.
He told me he had to shovel snow, and that was the only way he was going to do the interview. And I was like, I don't think this is going to go over well. And I kind of told him, like, you could hear the shovel the whole time.
You mean he did the interview while he was shoveling snow?
Yeah, and there was no video, and it was so annoying, and like my audience crucified me. I also had Gina Keogh on from the original Orange County Housewives.
ZZ Top Girl.
And I basically edited out. She is ZZ Top. I edited out all of her. She yawned quite a bit. And at one point said, is this over yet? Which was edited out. And then at the end, she just got up and went to her garage and got in her car with the cell phone and like started the car. And I'm like, okay, well, we're going to go now. And, she
was like, you want to come with me to Ralph's?
We're going to Target.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so disappointed to hear that, because she was always my favorite ZZ Top girl. Just a stunning girl back in the day. But I didn't really watch The Real Housewives of OC when she was on. I was a little bit of a latecomer, so I don't have an opinion on her.
She's okay.
Her now. But I don't like that she was yawning. That's kind of rude.
I thought so.
Yeah. I mean, well, and plus, you were saying on the last time we were together that podcasters make good guests, and I have to agree with you there because you know what the etiquette is, you know, and it's not asking a whole lot, right? It's like, please don't, you know, be making a lot of noise because this is a podcast. It's audio. And,
right.
you know, and please understand, you know, like set aside this time for us. And if it's not a good time, we'll reschedule, right? And you get that, which makes it a pleasure for us. But when people don't respect that, like that kind of, it's because it's your time too, you know?
Yeah. And it's like, look, I mean, there are people that I said, please do it or whatever. And then you're just like, so, I mean, in a way, I'm like, you are doing me a favor because like you didn't have to do this. But then I'm like, if you really just didn't want to, just, I guess, say you don't want to.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Like, don't waste my time. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and speaking of time, we're out of time, my love. But oh my gosh, thank you for doing this. We love having you on. Always great dish, and I want people. Again, if you're listening to us, you have to have listened to David. But check out Behind the Velvet Rope. And you're on Instagram, you're on Apple, Spotify, Google, right? You're like everywhere podcasts are sold.
Everywhere podcasts are found. And right, Behind the Velvet Rope, just type it in and you'll listen. And on Instagram, it's at Behind Velvet Rope. There's no it's at Behind Velvet Rope, and Behind the Velvet Rope, Spotify, everywhere podcasts are found. And it's 5 days a week, interviews, lots of reality people, pop cultures, and we are getting a lot of 80s people. So
yeah, I love it. And people, if by some chance you have not heard it, there are dozens upon dozens of celebrities, like any interest you have, you know, there's going to be somebody, chances are multiple somebodies that David has interviewed, and you have to hear how he gets to the truth, how he gets to the essence of everyone. Because I think that's your biggest like sort of trademark.
Superpower.
Right?
That is his superpower. Rob.
Yeah, that is it. Thank you. That is your superpower. Is you bring out the essence of whomever you're interviewing. So if someone is kind of, you know, a dick, that's going to come out. And if someone is a really truly nice person, that is going to come out. And there's, you know, you're sort of a truth, you are a truth teller, but like a truth exposer. I don't know. I got to think of a better word.
I have a way. We like do a date. You know, it's like another way I explain it, because I think I gave you the analogy last time about going on a date with someone.
Yeah.
This is another way, which is funny. But like my other analogy that I thought about it the other day is like we will start, and it's literally like we'll be in the middle of a room and we will do a dance. Or it's like playing chess. It's like, we'll do a dance though. It's like picture two people in the middle of the room and you're my guest. And like, we will be dancing and you will be having a great time dancing with me because I'm a great dancer. And you won't know it. And I will just slowly start getting closer to you, which causes you to move back. And I am angling you to one of the four corners of the room. And when you get there, which will probably take like 20 minutes, that is when now I have you pinned up against the wall, and now I have a rapid fire bunch of questions. So it's like the first 20 minutes, we're going to dance and have fun. The next 20 minutes, you're not going to enjoy, or the next maybe 25 to 30 minutes, you're not going to enjoy. And then once I got what I need, the last 10 minutes, let's just have a good time.
It's freestyle.
Yes. And then there are exceptions. Like when you have a Donna Mills in the room, I'm like, there's really nothing to get to. It's just more like you're an icon and we just need to like go over your whole career.
Yeah.
And kind of the same thing with Janice too.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I mean about people's essences, right? If you have somebody like Donna Mills or Janice Dickinson, you don't even want or need to get them in a corner. You just want to dance with them. You just want to, let them show off what they've got because they have depth. And they have a history. They, they're sort of three-dimensional.
And you're like, it's once in a lifetime. Like I am speaking to Janice. So like, make it count.
Yeah.
And same with Donna Mills. You're just like, this is good, right?
Yeah. That's wonderful.
I'll have to come back though, because I will have more 80s stuff to.
Anytime, we will always have you back anytime you want.
Once a month. Wasn't I here last month?
Yeah. Well, we did a 2-parter last time. And so if you want to come back once a month, I mean, I am so thrilled with that, right, Aim?
Of course. I'd love it.
Once a month is good. I mean, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
We have to check in with David.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe we can get into one where, because, I will say this about you. You, as an interviewee, you're kind of like you are an open book in certain cases, and then there are other cases where you just sort of veer over here,
Like what?
Well,
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just like, what?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's a defense thing, like I don't want to talk about it, or if it's just like, I don't know, but like we were talking about, Amy and I, when it's just us, we get into nitty gritty about our childhoods, about, this is what Easter was like at our house, or this is what, Halloween, blah, blah, blah. So we get really into what our childhoods were like and what a day in the life was and that kind of stuff. But maybe it's kind of what you were saying before about how your particular kind of memory doesn't really work that way, or maybe there's some stuff that, we need to get to the bottom of. I don't know.
We can talk about all of that.
You heard it, folks.
We can do it all next time. You just lead me in the direction.
That sounds perfect. Well, because as people will find out, if you didn't hear the first part, you have to go back and listen to the first part that we did with, the first 2 that we did with David, because he is such an interesting person and you have such a fascinating history. Like, I want to know more about that. I love all the 80s and 70s stuff, and I love your podcast stuff, but I also want to add to that a little bit more about, like, how do you go from being a lawyer to a podcaster, and like the details of that. Like, that is something incredible.
We can talk. Well, you know what I also started doing, like, not that this is a shameless plug for that, but yes, we can talk about all of that. I have started doing Zooms. So, like, and it's working. I mean, because you know what it is? So many people, because I got my podcast on the top of the charts within like a year. So people were just always asking me, like, how? And I'm like, listen, it's not like I don't, want to help everyone, but everyone's going to need to pay for this now because I don't have the time to go through. So it's like an hour or it's 2 hours. It's an hour for $50 or 2 hours for $75. I don't think that's
a great really price, is like, by the way.
It's like how to either A, start a podcast, or B, I have a podcast and I can't grow it. So, it's like, it is a whole thing. It's like, what's the name of the podcast? What's your RS? Like, I mean, it's not like I just show up and talk out of my ass. Like, I need some
That's facts. Valuable. That's valuable.
Yeah. And like, I will break it down for you and give you my advice on all the things you're doing wrong and how to kind of grow it. I mean, whether, look, some of it's out of your control, but I will at least give you advice on what you could be doing.
Yeah, because you have certainly done it right. And you know what, Aim? Maybe we should sign up for David's class. We'll do the 2-hour one.
Yeah, let's do it.
I will gladly pay $75. For I
think they're very reasonable.
I think it's very valuable, and it's very smart of him to monetize his advice.
Oh yeah,
because it literally was like everyone was asking me, and I'm just like, I mean, at some point, I just don't have the hours in the day.
Right. Yeah, I think you could charge more. I really do.
Yeah, I think. Well, if I start to get really swamped with this, it's going to go up. So it's another reason why people should book now.
Yeah,
he's going to become the Tony Robbins.
I mean, and it's also like a private Zoom. It's not like a class. It's not like 17 other people. It's like one-on-one. We're talking about your issues. Particular. Yeah. It's not like here are some notes and whoever wants to raise their hand can speak. It's literally like, give me the name of your podcast and like, let's talk downloads and when did you start and what are you doing? And like, I have a lot of questions.
That is very valuable.
Yeah. And but see that right there, the fact that you have monetized a podcast, you monetized your advice, you have been a lawyer, and didn't you say you were in real estate too?
Like for a minute.
Yeah.
But I also ran HR, and I had a company. I was doing like HR and staffing.
His company.
I've had like a million past lives.
Yeah, and see, that to me is super interesting because...
And he fit in going to South Fork.
Yeah.
And going to buy that chunky sweater during all of that.
Well, yeah, because normally, one of those things is someone's identity. Like, well, I'm a lawyer, you know, and you don't see a lot of lawyers who have the sense of curiosity and fun that would pack up and go to Paisley Park or go to South Fork. Like a lot of lawyers.
I am diverse.
Right. That's it. So I just think that the fact that all of these things are wrapped up in one person, plus the fact that you are all about the 80s, like
we need to unpack this. We definitely need to unpack this at some point.
I wanna study David Yontef like a blueprint and just you know, because I think
there's tissue paper under the layers of each thing that is packed. I feel like there's a nice scented paper.
You know why? Because it's packed with style, and there's probably like little lavender sprigs, right?
That's what I'm thinking.
Because the packaging is fancy. The packaging is going to be like fancy, you know.
I will take it.
I love it. All right, love. Well, we are going to wrap up now, and so you will be back ASAP, and go and listen to Behind the Velvet Rope. Just Google it. You know, like. Everything comes up, and you know, David Yontef, Yontef. He's
voice
all
Google
out
it.
there.
Just say, "Hey Google," and just say it, and there it will be.
Yeah, exactly. Google Behind the Velvet Rope. That's it. You will find it.
That's right.
So for us, for Glitter Boom Girls, we want to thank you for hanging out, and I'm Robbie over on the East Coast.
And I'm Amy on the West Coast.
And we want to thank David Yontef for giving us some time. Thank you, David.
Thank you so much.
Keep in touch, and I will be back next month, I promise.
Yay! I love it. All right. Have a great day. I love you too, darling. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.